And the other advantage I have is my son's a captain for Alaska Airlines, so
Oh shoot, can't beat
I
that.
I can jump seat if I need to get someplace. So, in fact, I just got back from a hunting trip, in Montana. He called me up about 60 days ago,
Yeah,
and he said, we haven't been to Montana hunting since the year after I graduated from
yeah.
college. So here's what I've done. I booked a whole hunt and a fly fishing trip, and we spent 10 days in Montana just roaming around.
Oh wow.
And what was really fun about it is, first of all, it's the first 10 days I spent alone with my son in 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it also got me back. Montana is important in my thriller series, in the Walker series. And it got me back looking at sites and people and
Mm-hmm.
so forth. So I got lots of notes that are going into the next book. So
That's an excellent thing. You just brought up an excellent point. So do you visit uh, places in your book? They're in your book. Have you been to most of them, or you want to visit them once the book is out? How do you do that? I do the research for that.
I have been to 95% of the places I include in a book. Um,
Hmm.
Sometimes surreptitiously. There was a long period of time when I was right at the breakup of the Soviet Union, when I was doing a lot of business and political work in Russia.
Yeah. Yep.
And I had an opportunity from there to fly Aeroflot to Cuba and
That's a babe.
spent,
You're a brave man. That's a
listen,
brave.
I flew 100,000 miles 1 year on Aeroflot. It's like being
Wow.
sentenced. It's like being sentenced. Um, but Cuba was different then because I went as an American, but with a small Russian delegation of business people. But
Mm-hmm.
I was the only one that anybody even wanted to talk to. The Cuban people were just fascinated and continue to be by the United States and by
Yes.
um, maybe someday not living the life they're living.
Yeah.
And the Russians thought the Cubans lived very, very well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. That's a different time back then.
it was.
Yeah. I was
But
in Germany then when it broke, when the wall came down.
yeah, well, I was not in Germany, but I got there right afterwards. It was the time I've been single for a long time. I was a single father for a long time,
Yep.
and
Yep. Yep.
but dating a German girl. So
Uh,
when the wall came down, she had to go home, and we went. Um, it was really extraordinary how the German people, the Western Germans, um, it was a very important event, but they went on with their lives. For the Eastern Europeans, it was the event of their lives.
yeah.
Um,
My wife is from about 12 miles from the East West German border. I patrolled the East West German border when I was in the Army, the 37 cab and maybe one cent with the 364 armor. And then when the wall came down, it was it's like the East Germans hadn't seen daylight. And
yes,
so they would go in the store and the citrus, right? They didn't have fresh fruit was a commodity, very hard to find. So they go in the stores and grab it out of your hand. And then they had the Trabants that were two cylinder engines. It was the whole thing, and then you could go from West Germany, very beautiful, and you just cross right into East Germany, and it was all gray and black, and they haven't done anything since the 40s and 50s, where we rebuilt Germany through the years, of Marshall Plan and everything, but they haven't done anything in the eastern part. Even today, in some parts of Eastern Germany, it still looks like that. Like they haven't done much to it, but the reunification, is what
it,
it is.
it's been successful, but it
Yeah,
it hasn't changed the lives. But it took 50 years to get where they got. So
yeah.
um, when I was in Russia, one of the things I did was I built communication networks for the oil and mining industry.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my clients there was a Russian-owned mining firm, and I built a communication network that allowed them. They were clear out on the Chukotna Peninsula, which is very close to Alaska, that would allow
Mm-hmm.
them to use American satellites to communicate instead of Russian satellites. And the
Mm-hmm.
Russian government, of course, couldn't know this because they would have just been pissed. And the, the reason they needed that communication network is the Russian government was paying $40 an ounce for gold at a time of selling for 250 on the world market. So they communicated with their Taiwanese partners, and the Taiwanese had licenses to do commercial fishing in Russian waters in the North
Mm-hmm.
Pacific. So their communication was to arrange for Taiwanese boats to be offshore, fly a helicopter in, load it full of gold, put it back on the Taiwanese trawler, take it back to Taiwan, and put it in the bank for this Russian mining company. And it was a fascinating experience to be involved in that. And I'm working on a book right now where I've taken a lot of that knowledge, that experience, and put it into a book. Eventually, one of the things that I did, we talk about how it shook up the East Europeans. I brought, the man died who I was working for. His daughter took over the business, and I flew her to Anchorage and put her in a really nice hotel. And the next day picked her up. The one thing she wanted to do was she wanted to see how we buy groceries. And I took her into a Safeway store. And we walked 2/3 of the way through the store, and she started to cry, and she could not control it. Had to get her back in the car, went back, took her back to the hotel, and she called me next morning and said, "I want to go home." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because I just don't understand how anybody could have this kind of wealth around them all the time. I don't know how you could do this." And she went back. The company continued to do well for the next 2 years, but in the third year, the Russian government began to get an inkling of what was going on. So after her terror of even being in a store, she now lives in Paris with, God knows how many millions of dollars in the bank.